when you're ready, just introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
Okay, I'm Brian Williams, co-founder and CEO at Viget. We're a digital agency with a kind of software development slant, and as CEO, I do a little bit of everything, I guess.
So, where did the name Viget come from?
Well, it started out as a code word. Actually, it was sort of a placeholder for a business we wanted to start, and it was never intended to be the permanent name. It's Latin. It loosely means flourish.
Oh.
It actually comes from the Princeton University motto, which is where my brother's my business partner and my dad, who was our first developer, both went to school. I was a UVA guy, so I got the company colors, orange and blue, and Andy got the company name. So we called it Viget for years as a placeholder, and then when we really got going, we talked for like a day about changing it. Everybody was already calling us Viget, so we just said, forget it, we'll worry about that later. Let's try and get the business going.
So tell us about the original founding of the business. Was it a deliberate thing, or was it a mistake? What happened?
Yeah, no, it was deliberate. I mean, I always wanted to start a business like this. Always kind of thought building a business would be a great experience and that sort of thing. So graduated from UVA with an engineering degree, started my career as a software developer, and really studied the company that I went to work for to try to understand how a business like this would work. Used to buy the CEO lots of drinks, or at least go out for drinks, and just try to pick his brain, that sort of thing. Learned a lot from that. Viget started sooner than I thought it would. Really, I was about 2 years out of school, and the company I worked for got acquired. And at that point, it was sort of like the new company was not really my cup of tea, and had several people that were interested in either working for Viget or hiring Viget in terms of becoming clients. And so the timing kind of lined up for that, and we said, let's give it a shot.
Okay.
Probably about 5 years earlier than I should have. We spent the first 5 years of Viget, almost going out of business every month. Learned lots of hard lessons that way, but now it's kind of worked out well and wouldn't change a thing.
So even though you started the company, was there a moment where you realized that, oh my God, I'm in charge of people, I'm actually the leader of these guys?
We started with 3 founders, my brother, and then another guy I'd worked with at this other company, a guy named Mike Bass, and it was very much, we wanted to run a very flat structure. I wasn't CEO, we were all just co-founders. We didn't want the traditional titles and that sort of thing, and it kind of limped along, and we struggled. We hired a few people pretty quickly. We had some good clients, but we started, incorporated in 1999, early 2000. Things were rocking with the dot-com boom. We worked with the startups a lot, and then pretty quickly that all fell apart, and we were looking around like, what are we doing here? A bunch of 25-year-olds trying to run a business. This doesn't make any sense. And so we really limped along for a few years. Then Mike had an opportunity to go do something else, which was really a tough thing at the time. But turned out to be a good thing. My dad passed away, and he was a developer. He wasn't really on the business side, but that was a real shakeup. But pretty quickly we kind of got out of that and realized we needed to have more, deliberate leadership. So Andy became president and focused on internal operations. I became CEO and focused on external sales, marketing, and that sort of thing. And that really helped get us on the right track.
So do you think that having more focus as to what you were doing and this kind of seniority as to who was doing what helped you as a person as well?
Oh yeah, because I think I was, kind of floundering. I didn't really know what leadership meant for us. I didn't know what the team needed. I wasn't myself kind of growing or advancing as well as I should have been. And so once we started to say, okay, I'll sort of be responsible for this part of the business, you'll be responsible for that part. We were able to get better at that, go out and talk to people, get the right kind of advice from other people, all that kind of stuff. And even now, we're almost 70 people, it's still very lean and flat. I talk to the staff all the time. There's not any kind of awkward leadership structure at all. We really view management and leadership at Viget as a support structure. We're here to help people do their best work, not demand that they do or anything like that. And so I think it's worked out well.
Tell me a little bit about how you guys do planning for the future.
It's I would say fairly loose, right? So our view is change is inevitable. We're in an industry that's constantly changing. The stuff that works now won't work in 2 years, didn't work 2 years ago, that sort of thing. We're constantly seeing that, whether it's the tech stacks that we're using, the process that we're using, the tools are always changing, what the clients' needs are changing. Since we work in startups, you can have these ups and downs of startups are hot right now, but when that bubble bursts in a year or two, that they'll be gone, so we can't be overly reliant on that. So we have built the entire structure around this bet on change. So our future planning is often saying, okay, well, what are we interested in doing in terms of the teams? What kind of technologies do we want to play with? When we look out 2 years from now or 5 years from now, what types of clients do we want? What types of solutions are we trying to solve? That sort of thing. But it's not very rigid. We're not trying to make an exact plan for how to get there. We want to have a clear vision in terms of what we're trying to achieve, but we want to sort of accept the fact that this change is going to be constant.
Right. Yeah, it is pretty ambiguous out there. Obviously, as you guys are evolving, like you said, you made a lot of mistakes along the way. Are there things that stick in your mind as like really clear learning experiences, like this is a mistake that helped us be better?
Sure. I mean, some of it is the stuff now. It seems so obvious, and you hear all the time, like fire people quickly, right? And not in a callous way at all, but it's doing no one any good to have the wrong person in the organization. So we learned pretty quickly, not just no, I don't like that hire slow, fire fast kind of thing. I mean, I think the idea of firing fast is a little too cold for our structure, but I think the idea of finding people that are unhappy and unsuccessful and figuring out a way to get them out of the organization to a point where they will be happy and successful is a good thing. I think that's important. I think never slow down on the sales side. We would get busy and we would kind of see that we got client work booked out for the next 6 months. It seems like forever. Like no need to sell, and then 6 months goes by really quickly, and all of a sudden we have nothing in the pipeline. So always be selling is a big thing. I think there's little mistakes that we made around being too broad on our tech stack, for example. I think we realized pretty quickly that trying to be technologists that could work in any tech stack really just meant we weren't very good at anything. It's easy to sell that way, but not necessarily the way to do our best work. So narrowing in and being more specialized has been good. Those are just a few things that come to mind.
Does that focus also go towards who you work with? I mean, do you have a particular lens around what kind of client you want to work with?
We do. I think, and I think a lot of people probably overstate that. We pick the best clients, and we're in a position to be very selective about the clients we are, which is true to an extent. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of mouths to feed. It's a lot of expenses to kind of figure out, and so we never forget that the fact that somebody's coming into our organization and is willing to write a big check for us to do the things that we love to do is just a great thing to have happen. Mm-hmm. So we are very sort of appreciative of that, and try to not take too arrogant a stance of this isn't exactly the right project at the right time, that kind of thing. But we certainly are selective about clients that we think are going to be just an unhappy situation for both sides. Right. We want to make sure that there's a good chance of success. And we've, now we are at a point where a lot of the clients are, dream clients. I mean, looking at the types of folks we get to work with now, if you had said 10 years ago you'd be working with these types of groups, I would have thought you're crazy. So it's very rewarding to work hard for 15 years and get to that point, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you describe your leadership style?
I think it's in some ways kind of to be to view yourself as a peer, kind of one of the just folks in the group. It's not so much that everyone is a friend first, but it's certainly a family-friendly type of an environment. We aren't a family or a business, right? So that's an important distinction. Even though my brother's my business partner, and our sister heads up recruiting and is our people director, and so there's some family aspects to it. But I don't like the family business label, because I think it has people think of we're not as ambitious, or we're not trying to do as good work. Yeah, it's not that at all. It's but I think there is that aspect. I mean, when you talk to people about what do they love about Viget working there, the sense of family, the fact that we all care about each other is an important thing, and I think that comes through in my leadership style. I'm very involved in terms of people. I want to have a relationship with everybody in the company. You guys all razz me at owner camp about how I still participate
one-on-ones.
in every review, annual review, and I do one-on-ones with like 20 people and stuff. And so I view that as how I keep a pulse on not only the company but the industry. I learn a ton in all those meetings. I'm just in awe of the people I get to work with in the company. So the chance to sit down for 30 minutes and talk to them about how they're doing and what are they seeing, what are they excited about. I mean, that's not like management. That's a fascinating conversation for me. So
Right.
I don't view that as a burden at all.
Do you think that your team would describe you in the same way? Do you think they would say, hey, this is his leadership style?
I think so. We do an annual review now for me as well, so the team gets to kind of do the peer review process and same way 360 style review, the same way we do for all of them. And I think the feedback is I'm probably a little too much in the weeds, right now, and I think it's just a factor of as we've grown, and I've really tried to maintain some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I need to keep a better eye on, not being too in the weeds and being able to get out a little bit and look further ahead, which is what, coming to conferences and meeting with other CEOs and stuff, that's a big part of that.
Sure.
But I think, I don't know, you have to ask them. I would like to think that you'd hear positive things about my leadership style. Otherwise, people would stick around. Yeah.
So you guys have 2 offices, is that correct?
We have 3.
3.
So I'm in our headquarters, which is just outside of Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
We have an office in Durham, North Carolina, and then Boulder, Colorado.
And how do you manage that? Describe what that looks like. Who's where? Who's doing what?
Yeah. So HQ is about half the company, and then Durham and Boulder about evenly split, about 15, 16 in each of those. We centralize some things, operations, but business development happens in all 3 offices a little bit, and the mix of talent in terms of project management, design, dev, that sort of stuff is all pretty evenly spread across the offices. From a leadership perspective, we don't have like a regional manager